Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Traci Scheepstra, and this is Body Talk. Embodied Learnings brings you Body Talk because we are committed to bringing the body into the elementary classroom and into the school curriculum. We do this because we believe it supports student learning, student engagement, mental health and wellness, and for thriving classrooms and school cultures. Now today we are going to be talking about the body in connection to learning a new language. So if you are teaching French Immersion or you are teaching students that are English language learners, this is a talk for you. And we have a special guest. I'm delighted to invite my good friend and colleague, Nathalie Lauriault. So welcome, Nathalie. I'm so glad that you could be with me today.
I'm really glad to be here too and to share my expertise with everyone who is teaching a second language. Yes, thank you
Oh,
for letting me in.
yes, absolutely. And you have just a wealth of experience. So I would love for you to share with our viewers a little bit about yourself, your background, not only as an educator, but you can also share what it is that you're doing today because you're doing some pretty amazing work.
Yes, I have been in the education world for 37 years. And both as a teacher in the classroom, mostly in French immersion setting, and also I was a leader for a little while in a school in Toronto. And I have retired, but I'm also very involved in my research in my educational career. I co-authored a book called Tools for Teaching Conceptual Understanding, and I am now involved with a research team who are moving this way of thinking and teaching forward, a very exciting time. So I'm very busy doing my research and also hopefully empowering teachers to look at how to prepare students to solve complex problems.
Mm,
But I also am quite involved in how do you do this in the elementary and the French immersion
mm,
program too.
wonderful. Now, I also like to let people know how it is that I have come to invite a guest on Body Talk, sort of how it is that we know each other, because I always think relationships are so important. And that's really at the core of my own teaching philosophy, is the importance of having those really sort of connected relationships. And you and I first met because you were the associate teacher for a Western at the time, she was a teacher candidate and she was doing her practicum with you in the French immersion classroom. And we met because I was a practicum consultant. And then later we met actually taking a dance class. So we've been dancing for the past year together, which has been just so much fun. And it was at that point that we realized we had such a deep passion for a similar area of education, which is really about the arts and the use of the body, and then, of course, you have volunteered so much of your time with embodied learning. So for those of you watching, if you have taken advantage of some of our resources and particularly downloaded some of the French resources, Nathalie has been a driving force behind all of those resources actually getting to publication. So I can't thank you enough for all of your support in that area.
Oh, and it's a pleasure. I am such awed by what you've done in embodied learnings. It just goes so well, so aligned, and how I teach young children. Because I always say, I'm gonna say a little quote, you tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. And I
Mm,
really believe when you're learning a new language, if you involve your whole self into the learning of that language, children will remember, but not only remember, transfer it
mm,
and use it in many, many contexts. It's just not a little like this is what I'm doing in
mm.
class. It's actually, you can hear them using the language while they collaborate, or sometimes I even overhear them use those words in French outside of recess. So yes, so that involvement is so important, and internalizing it with their bodies. Yes.
Mm, mhm.
Mhm.
Now, unfortunately, I speak French very poorly. You know, I did French, I guess, the sort of when I learned, it was that typical by rote, you know, it was all memorization of verbs and I never learned how to actually speak French. I could read and write French to some degree. But then when I didn't use it, I forgot it. But I remember my children, they both went through a French immersion program in elementary school, and they both had the same grade one teacher. And what I really remember is how animated her class was in the way that they were really engaged physically. And as somebody who has a dance background and really does believe, of course, in the body being such a critical part of learning, when I think back now to the way they learned and how quickly they were able to pick up on the French language, that's when I started to think, gosh, what are the connections? Now, not having had the experience or myself teaching a second language or teaching with second language, English as a language, oh my goodness, my words are all over the place, but not working with students that are learning either a new language, whether that be French or English, I knew that you know, I'm still limited in that knowledge, which is why I really would love for you to share your process. And so thinking about like the body and how that actually really does support children in learning any new language, whatever that may be. But I know you will be able to speak specifically to French immersion just through your experiences. So
Yes.
anyway, let's just start there and talk about sort of the
Sure.
body really in the center of
Yeah.
things.
So I'm going to start right at the beginning. Like I even use actions and movement when I even teach phonics in the classroom. I use this French um, uh, phonetical system called Borel-Mizoni. And it's all very logical, but it's all using movements. Like they'll say madame, the madame. They will use actions. Every sound has an action. What I found fascinating is that sometimes they will start talking to me just with their hands, no words. And I'm like, okay, what are they saying here? So they are, and that is that internalized. And again, like I was saying earlier, it's that transfer. If they have the motions and the sound with the motion, they're able to transfer it to their reading and to their writing as well. When I teach science or social studies or dance or visual arts, any conceptual, any discipline that has those concepts, I teach through inquiry, through inductive teaching, because I make sure there's a lot of opportunities in the class where there's a lot of activities to make meaning of concept, a consolidation of concepts. So it's very hands-on, a lot of pictures. And then we come up with a statement, elaborate, find lots of examples, but then they have to illustrate it. They have to show me the understanding of a concept either through an art form or using Play-Doh. But what I really like is using miming or mirroring or tableau scenes in drama. So I have them move and I do a little bell and they have to show me the action of the concept or the definition of concept using their body. Very abstract. It actually when I present this to adults, they often will say to me, this is really abstract. What amazes me with young children, they embrace that abstractness and that abstract concept, and they will really think deeply and be able to show the concept using their bodies. And often I have them, obviously that would be pre-COVID, in groups also come up with the concept together. So everybody has to have a different shape in their group, but they have to explain to me what the meaning of the concept with their body. So again, is that because they use their body, they remember the definitions of those concepts. So then when I start putting the concepts together, where they start connecting, because they have that deep understanding of each concept, boy, can they come up with that big idea, that generalization, and answer these deep questions because it's so ingrained and well internalized. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. So you must find I find with most young children, they are very comfortable in their body for the most part. I find that as children get older, they become less comfortable. And I think that really has a lot to do with sort of how we think of our bodies. You know, some of it is as children go through puberty, they become more conscious of their body. But I think, generally in society, as we get older, we start to detach. Teaching doesn't typically use the body as much and keep people as rooted in it. Whereas if we, start when they're young and we keep using the body, then I think students just naturally feel comfortable because it's something they've always known. But there are students, of course, that may find learning through their body something that they have to kind of get used to or get comfortable with, if it's depending on, again, what grade you're teaching, the students that you are working with, their prior experiences. So, like, what is it that you would do to really create that comfort for them? Like, where do you start?
Yes, and I agree with you. That's very true. Um, I create a classroom climate, a community of learners, and I spend a lot of time at the beginning in September. I always say about 6 weeks, how to set up your community. It's a community of trust and relationships. I always say the 3 R's: roles, responsibility, and respect. What is our role? What is our responsibility, and what respect do we have? That I build that community in my classroom where it's okay to make mistakes. And we embrace our mistakes, and what can we do to learn from those mistakes? I get a lot of that setting up that community, looking at John Hattie's work, a wonderful educational researcher who has a lot of books out there with the visible learning. And he talks about the power of feedback to your students, but not only to your students, is you as a teacher, you get feedback from your students, and then student to students feedback, the peer feedback. However, to set that up, to have that trust in your class takes a long time. A lot of activities, a lot of discussion, and a lot of I do it at the beginning of the year with a lot of games, of trustworthy games in the classroom. For example, I'll just say to them, line up to go outside at recess, but without talking. I line up in your alphabetical order. Just give you an example. So they have to, and then line up. It's that trust and if you're in the wrong line, then how do we help your friend? So, and I always begin the year with a little kit, and in the kit there's a little eraser. And I said, you'll need that eraser because we're going to make a lot of mistakes. So, and I also put a piece of chewing gum in that little kit, because we chew it the first day of school because we're a community and we stick together and we're all going to help ourselves achieve. And another thing I put in is a coin, because we're all special, valuable. So I talk about that aspect of building that community. You need to have that trust to then move forward. And like you said, yes, it's okay to use your body to express. And if you don't feel like using your body that day, what are you going to use to explain this concept? And that's okay, because everybody's different at different days too. Yeah. So that's how I do spend a lot of time building my classroom community. Yes.
Yeah. Because language is obviously so much more than just verbal communication. It's also nonverbal. So there's a lot of body language that's involved, which requires interpretation, and we show our emotions through our bodies, and we communicate so many different things through our bodies, and we want our students to feel that it's okay to communicate their thoughts and ideas as well as their emotions, how it is that feels most natural to them, but also have that breadth of, we can do this in multiple ways. Because if we're just learning in one way, then there's going to be a gap, right? Something is going to be missed.
Yeah.
And of course, by including the whole child, which is the mind and the body, something else is happening. There's a real, again, you talk a lot about sort of this idea of inquiry, right? Like it's very much a discovery process.
Yes.
It also internalizes that learning.
Yeah, absolutely. But that takes, building a community, that takes time.
Yes.
Also, you have to remember the scaffold part is all done en français, in French.
Yes.
So there's all that, okay, how am I going to do to express this in French? And I'm talking in French all the time, right? So I use a lot of body movement, a lot to express. I'm very expressive with my body. And I'll just give you another example. Like if I was going to teach a story, like I know that my vision is I want to show the children how to write a story. Like, who are the characters? Where's the setting? Where is the problem and the conclusion to a story? Prior to really explicitly explaining it on the chart paper before we start writing, I will do a lot of experience using yoga or dance and explaining okay, these are the characters of my story today in yoga. Once upon a time, there's a mountain. On the mountain, there are trees, and we take the poses and using the body. So then when we come back to sitting in front of the chart paper and I'm putting my success criteria of writing a story, they have it because it's been internalized. We've had that prior experience using your body. And I do it in dance too. While I teach dance, like using the concept of pathways and shape and timing, we tell a story. And so once the transfer, again, I always talk about transfer because I'm always like thinking, well, how am I going to transfer this so they have that deep understanding? And then the story, the writing, the plan of the story is way clearer because they understand the parts of the story because they've done it through movement. You see how, yeah.
And they're also associating. So when you are making the shape of the mountain, you're making the shape and saying the word of mountain. So the association of mountain, I can also remember. So if I'm trying to remember, what did my teacher say when we did this shape?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that brings those things together. Otherwise, what we hear are a lot of words. I know for me that I learned so well. I'm not so good with auditory, but if I can be physically in it and see something, like visually see something, and then bring it onto my own body, my brain remembers it. It's the same with me. Sometimes I have to listen and take notes to visually see it.
Yes.
For it to kind of hit. So you are taking them through the process of beginning, middle, end with their body and also making associations with the action with the word.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot, there's a wealth, like you can use so many things to teach a concept. Don't be afraid, just try it.
Because I would imagine like there's certain students that pick up language very quickly. And then there are other students that, they take more time. And I know that French immersion, a lot of children may go into French immersion, but they may not, some are really struggle. And again, I think part of that could also be that they need to be taught in a way where like I remember when my children were going into French immersion, it was just told to us, some children are suited to it and some children are not. But I wonder if it's not so much who's suited, but how they're taught. Because I think that we are all capable of learning a second language, especially young children, because the research shows the younger you are, the easier it is to pick up.
Yeah,
but
your language.
Yes, but if you're a kinesthetic learner and you are only being taught to recite words over and over again, or to see them on a paper, it may show that actually you aren't learning it, but it's because you're not being taught in a way that actually works with your own ability, like learning style.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Like I said, differentiate for all, right? We're all different. Differentiate your teaching. Yes.
Yes.
Like when I teach, I always try to, when I do, if I can go back to the phonics, I always try and connect it to a little comptine, or a little, it's a little poem with the sound in it, but I always put movement to it. Like I read it and I go, okay, what movement can we make? Can we do? And they have the movement because they have I teach them all the movement associated with each sound, but giving them the little poem, I look at it and I go, what movement can I create so they can make a connection to the understanding of this poem? So I try to do, I have lots of cute little dances that they do with the poem. They love it, a lot of laughter. They think it's silly, but they love it. A lot of hand games. There's a lot of hand games that I also create with them, with the sounds. And now when I do recess duty outside, I can see them. They're actually practicing them.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really cute. Yeah, I enjoy that. I love to move. So I'm a learner. I learn through movement. That's how I learn. So it's easy for me to project that as a teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine too that, because I know for students that are learning English, for example, as a second language, then there's a lot of research that shows that when they are able to observe people in, moving, like just observe body language, observe that they, language they can pick up language in that way too. That's why integrating the arts in particular can really help, students who are, again, coming into an English classroom, and there may be just that one student that is needing to learn the language. But when they can see gestures, when they can really pick up on activities where, again, there's mime or there's those dance that connects to that broader idea, that can really trigger an understanding, because that part, the movement part, is actually quite universal. Then it's just being able to go, oh, in my language or my understanding, this is what it would be in my language, but that's the word that connects it over here.
Yeah, using the arts, like all the aspect, the drama, the music, the visual arts, the dance. It's such a strong conceptual language there. It's easy that they make connections to that. Yeah, I didn't speak English till the age of 9.
This is the fun of doing Zoom at home. You have dogs barking out the window.
He's dancing. Yeah. So I did not learn English till the age of 10. And I only spoke French till then. And I was put in this, I moved to Singapore and I was put in this British classroom. I'll always remember it's stressful. It's scary. And you have to be so observant. Like that's all you do is you use your visual, your eyes, and look for movement and hints of behavior from others to understand, right? So you become very alert of your senses when you're learning another language. Yeah, it's not only listening, it's looking, it's copying movements. Oh, okay, am I doing this right? I'm like, okay, I have to line up now. So because you watch everybody, right? It's just, you become much more aware, sensory when you learn a language, definitely. And that's why I try to do as a teacher in French immersion.
Mm,
Those little guys come to me hardly knowing any French.
mm.
And my job is to teach them. And be amazed, by the end of the year, they converse all en français to me. Yeah. They even get jokes.
Pardon? And they even get jokes. Oh, that's funny. The other thing about French immersion that I find so interesting is that, again, depending on how it's taught, for some children, because they may really fall in love with the language, they will continue with it. But what I feel you do is you bring joy to the learning experience through using the arts and using the body. So not only is that helping by differentiating for all students, so that every student can not only find joy in it, but it really helps all the different learners. But they see language like their first introduction, because I know that you typically teach primary. So those young children, their first introduction is language is fun. Like it's not hard. And I think, again, thinking back, to my children, for my daughter, picking up a language which was definitely easier than it was for my son. And I know for him, he has a great sense of humor. And so for him to really feel pulled in by something and want to know more, there needed to be that fun, that engagement. Otherwise, it felt like work, and he lost interest really fast, which had nothing to do with his ability, whether or not he could actually succeed. It was just how he was being taught. And so I just feel that you're reaching those children on many different levels. And so when the spark is there, that desire, that like they look forward to it, then the language can continue to grow and develop. The question is, every year, will they have teachers that will be able to continue that? That's the part that's tricky, because every teacher, of course, has their own way of approaching teaching that's different. And for some, they're not comfortable in their own bodies, therefore, or that may not be their own learning style. And so it may not occur to them.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've said it right. It's that you want the student to be engaged. It's that engagement. So that's your goal. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do to make it engaging?
Yes. Yeah.
We as teachers
Yeah.
have to become adaptable.
Yes.
And adapt and be a risk taker, try different things to bring that engagement, that love of learning. I mean, that's what, and ultimately, what do we want? We want to prepare our students to solve complex problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that engagement piece is so important. Yeah. And I try to do it through the arts, blending the arts a lot into my teaching. But also I really say never underestimate the children, the students. Boy, can they be incredible thinkers, and they will change the world if you teach them the right way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the key that you really touched upon is engagement. You don't have to have a dance background. You don't have to have a strong arts, knowledge either to make something engaging. It's really, how do you get students really involved, working together with each other, bringing in the fun, the laughter, getting out of their seats, just moving. And again, just finding ways to really bring it into the body and to show the expression of the language.
Absolutely.
And all of those really are the pieces. So it's just, for some, it may be thinking more outside of the box. Again, we're all at different levels of what that looks like, but it's that's where I think the real connections start to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to be a dancer.
Yeah.
But just finding a way, like you said, get out of your seat or whatever, the expression of the language. Yeah. And then you'll get that engagement from the students. Yeah.
because I was also going to say that I noticed that one thing that I've often gotten from teachers who are not as comfortable bringing the body into the classroom is there's this sense that you might create chaos. You know, you might lose the focus of the students. And I have always said it really just starts from what are your expectations. So, you know, what are the expectations that you have of them? So this is part of classroom management, and just letting them know these are the clear guidelines, like anything else. When we're out of our seats, you know, this is how, this might be a signal I use when you need to stop and look and listen. You know, these are the guidelines that we abide by to keep each other safe. So an awareness of personal space, whatever that may be. And then things really can move from there. But I will often say that you know, once you establish that and then you take that risk to get them up and moving, the engagement that it can create can really enhance their learning, and that you can actually move forward, I think, much quicker because they're with you.
Absolutely.
So,
but like I said, it's building that community, that trust. Yeah, right. That take your time. And then like you're right, expectations.
Yes.
You know, what are your intentions and expectations in your classroom, building that. Take time with that. Really, that's one of the big recommendation I would give after 37 years of teaching.
Yes.
Spend time with that, and you'll see the inquiry is easy after, because you've got expectation and rules and routines established. You don't have to go back all the time. Yeah, you do. You need refreshers. I mean, we all, every class is different too. Some classrooms you need to refresh every Monday morning. You know, depends on you. Again, you differentiate for every group that you with, right? So yeah.
Now, I think we've already talked about this, but just in terms of some really specific strategies, you've sort of mentioned them throughout, but if we could just kind of maybe summarize. For example, you use mime.
Yes.
I know mirroring is a wonderful way of getting students to learn concepts where, you know, they mirror each other. So one does moves through a concept and another copies. Or again, you talked about this idea of telling a story through the body, and then sitting down and with the chart paper and creating an anchor chart or whatever. I know there's lots of repetition. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, there's a lot of strategies out there. I get them a lot from the book, Making Thinking Visible from Richard. Wonderful resource for teachers to establish some strategies. I think I mentioned the tableau scenes. My students really enjoy that. So they move, and I have a little bell, ding, and they have to stand in a tableau describing the concept. But I also use see, think, wonder. So I put pictures around the room. They go around. They have post-its. I love post-its. Post-its, my favorite things to in my classroom. Kids write, what do they see? And then they come back and say, so what did you see in all this? So then we write a list, because in French immersion, take your time. They don't have the language. So they may go around and look at pictures, but write the word in English. So your job when they come back to the gathering area in the classroom, and I said, well, what did you see? And they'll say, oh, a house. Oh, tu veux dire une maison. You mean a house. And then you write the word in French. So they hear the French. And then I have them go around again and say, well, what questions do you have? Or what do you think about this? So they go around the room and looking at their thought process, and then their questions. Other things I do, for a great one for movement, is I have a question, and it's called 4 corners, and there's 4 answers. I said, okay, when I say go, this is my question. These are the answers in the 4 corners of the room. Get up and go to the corner that you believe is the right answer to something, a question or whatever, and discuss with your group why you feel this is you belong in this group. And I said, you may change your ideas when you listen to your group members, you said, no, I think I belong there, and you may want to move. And then we come back and we have, okay, so why did group 1, 2, 3, 4 think this way? Another one I do is consolidation of concept, is this called the SEEI, state, elaborate, examples, and illustrate. So they, after we've, like, for example, if we go around the room and we look at different pictures, and let's say it's habitats. So what is a good definition of a habitat? So we write it together. Then I will ask them to use the intellectual journal. All my students have an intellectual journal, or you can call it a concept journal. And I said, well, go in your journal and write, elaborate, tell me more about what the definition, and give me examples. So they'll give me examples of habitats. And then I'll have them illustrate it, either a drawing using Play-Doh or using your body, an activity, tableau, mirroring of what that concept. And we've added the word T at the end. So see it. T is discuss it together. Why? To explain that discussion part, because you want to get that language, that and use the words that you know of Français and French, use them in explaining the concepts. So this is just some activities that are, and I get them out of that, making thinking visible. There's a lot of different strategies out there to bring out their learning to in the world. That's what you want to bring out that learning out there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so just from what I'm hearing, you use a lot of strategies to get them out of their seats, moving in the room, connecting with other people to have those conversations, to really think through their thinking.
Yes.
But then you also get them to then really show you individually through their body by doing a shape, or even working in a group to create a tableau. So you're really connecting different strategies together, layering them, where so that they're always in that mode of thinking and self-expression, and showing you in different ways where they are in their understanding.
And then after that, once they collaborate and they discuss together their thinking, I will often say to them, okay, now go back in your journal and revisit. Scaffold. What else have you learned today? Right. So this scaffolding of learning, that thinking journal, that thinking process. And it's amazing because that journal becomes theirs. It's their ownership, and every discipline can go in there. And it's amazing to, when you as an educator, you go through those journals and you see the thinking process and how it has evolved. It's quite it amazes me sometimes, going, wow, very bright kids out there. We're so lucky.
And you also use, again, you mentioned like a lot of music, like song, and just, again, I remembered my children doing a lot of action songs. And of course, I use that a lot just with young children in dance. Simple things like just head, shoulders, knees, and toes, right? I mean, those are some of the simplest ways to connect language and movement.
Yes, like you involve, you learn, right? Involve the body. Yeah. A lot of hand rhymes, and dancers have little dances to go with certain rhymes. I like that. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. I like making teaching fun.
Well, you shared a lot of really great resources just today through talking, and I'll make sure that I post those. Okay. Well, so that anyone who's watching this video will have the resources and can connect to the things we talked about. But you also have a website that you created where I know, well, you've got a couple websites, but you also have your own that's specifically for teaching split grades, and it's in French and English, am I right?
It's totally bilingual. Okay. I've translated it, but you can download anything. It's actually showing how to plan conceptually in a split grade classroom. Specifically in that website is a grade 2-3, and how to look at the outcomes, the concepts in both grade level, pulling them out so that they are aligned. Yes, the grade 3s will be doing a different context than the grade 2s, but they're looking at the same concepts.
Mhm.
And it's how to do it. So step by step, how to do it. Yeah. So you can, if you can post that when anyone, and you can download anything in there. It's definitely bilingual. A lot of the little movies are in French because it's French
Yeah.
immersion,
Yeah.
but you get the gist of it. Yeah, it's all in there.
And do you include some of the movement strategies in that unit as
Yeah,
well?
you will see this. Is it in that one? I have another. Yeah, you may see some, a lot of, yes, you'll see a lot of movement, like through my strategies, the see, think, wonder is in there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you will see some of those in there. Yeah, with the children. And at the end, the summative is very hands-on and a lot of talking and movement to it. So you'll see that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, I will definitely make sure to post all of that for anyone who's interested. And I know that if anyone's interested in even speaking with you one-on-one, that you're always so open to connecting with other educators and sharing your knowledge. So we'll make sure that they have your email address as well.
Great. Yeah, it's really a passion of mine. Teaching children. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So as we are finishing, is there anything else that you that we maybe didn't speak of today that you would want educators to know in terms of just the importance of really connecting the body into the French immersion classroom or working with students that are learning a second language, regardless of what that language is?
I always say, start small, think big. So
Yeah.
start with something and one little thing and see how it goes. And it's okay to make mistakes. Remember that. Embrace those mistakes and learn from the mistakes. And then, yeah, start with one little thing and see how it goes. But don't forget to, like Traci said, your expectations, set those up first so you're not disappointed. And try it out. Try it. It's fun. And if you reach out to me if you need some ideas, I love that. Helping out. Yes.
Thank you. And I think that's a beautiful way to end, because I think sometimes we often think we have to start big and then it stops us cold. But all it takes is just starting small, one little step, as you said,
Little step.
and
Yeah.
then getting that feedback, as you mentioned earlier. You get feedback through the students in terms of their response, what they say, do you see the joy? And then you could revise, and then you can try it again and try new things. And before you know it, you yourself are creating something that not only are you getting joy from, but your students are. But it takes time. And I love that you emphasize the time. I think sometimes in education, it's like, if it doesn't happen immediately, then we're moving on, but we have to allow time.
Absolutely. It took me 37 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start small, think big. That's an important part. Yeah. And like Traci was saying, just to end, the feedback. When the students demonstrate a concept, you watch them. So be a detective in your students' learning. Listen, look, and you'll say, oh, they didn't really get this one. So I'm going to have to go back and review this concept when they work. So yeah, be a detective in their thinking. Yeah.
Well, Nathalie, as always, it has been a pleasure to have a conversation with you and to learn from you. So thank you so much for being a part of Body Talk for this particular topic. And I just, again, thank you to all of our viewers for watching. And I hope that you've taken away something from Nathalie as well. And again, we will provide all the information. So I just want to thank you all for watching. And if you haven't been to our website to check out our resources and all of the things that we do have there, you can go to www.embodiedlearnings.com. And until next time, I wish you well. Thank you all.
Au revoir.